The tools for achieving your wellness goals are right outside your door. You just have to know where to look, and I'm here to help. I'm Missy, an East Texas Christian herbalist, here to share conversations about local plants, where to find them and what to do with them, local vendors, the area's top sources for natural health products, and local practitioners, the professionals you can trust to get to the root of whatever you face. Whether you're here to learn, connect, or live more in step with the land, you're in the right place. Welcome. Today's herb might just be that something extra you've been looking for, and it's in season right now across East Texas. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about one of my favorite quiet powerhouses in herbal medicine, self-heal or Prunella vulgaris. If you forage or wildcraft in East Texas, I'm seeing it right now. Now is the time to harvest. The time is now. Well, after the podcast, maybe. This is one of those plants that doesn't demand attention, but once you start working with it, you realize it shows up everywhere. It's on lawns and on the trail and in gardens. It's just quietly doing its thing, and honestly, that's what it does. So where do you find it and how do you identify it? Right now, it's in flower, so it's easier to spot. The flowers are small, but they're a pretty color. They're a medium purple, and they stick up in spikes. I'm going to put a photo on the show cover so that you have a visual. It's a mint family plant, so it has a square stem, and it also has simple leaves that grow opposite one another. It's not very big. The plant isn't very big. In the wild, I see the flowers sticking up maybe 6 to 8 inches from the ground. And the plants that I grew from seed, they don't even stand that tall. They sprawl out on the ground. But when I see it in flower, I know it's time to get some. It doesn't really have a noticeable scent, and the taste is very mild. If you're thinking growing it yourself sounds easier than wandering around hoping to find it, I got my seeds at Strictly Medicinal Seeds. I ordered them online. The seeds came right up. It's easy to grow, and my thumb's not that green. I probably said a lot of clueless things when I was learning about herbs when I first started, and I probably still do. But when I was studying to be a clinical herbalist, I had the opportunity to work with clients at a donation-based clinic, and every week we would present our cases to a panel of registered herbalists, and they would review our plan and make suggestions. And when one of the herbalists suggested self-heal on a case that I was working, I said something like, I've used that a few times and didn't really think much of it. I wish you could have seen the reaction. Like jaws dropped and eyes bugged, and shock and dismay was expressed by all, and I never said such a thing again. And I know where I went wrong. When I first studied self-heal, I saw this long list of things it's known for, and there were so many of them, I thought, no way. Have you ever had a tool or an appliance that does a lot of things, but it doesn't really do them well? Like it does 5 things and you actually only need 3 of the things, but once you buy it, you wish you'd have gotten an individual tool for those because it doesn't work. I guess that's how I viewed self-heal, and it seems so mild and unassuming that I just thought, meh, it's fine, but that's actually not the case for this versatile herb. Self-heal has been used for over 1,000 years across cultures as food, as medicine, as first aid. Don't underestimate it. If you find it, you have something herbalists value highly because this plant is all about restoration. So think of Prunella vulgaris as the herb that helps you heal yourself. That's the reason it's called self-heal. And even historically, herbalists recognized that. Back in the 1600s, herbalist Nicholas Culpeper described self-heal as a plant that helps the body restore itself, not forcing, not overriding, just supporting the body in doing what it already knows how to do. And that's a really helpful lens for understanding this plant. Self-heal isn't usually the herb that comes in strong and fast. It doesn't knock your socks off. It's the herb you add in, and suddenly all the other herbs in the formula work better. It supports tissue repair, immune balance, inflammation resolution. It's like it rounds out a formula and helps the body knit things back together physically and honestly, emotionally too. So let's talk about self-heal for first aid. If I had to pick one category where self-heal really shines, it would be first aid and tissue repair. It has this beautiful combination of being astringent, which is tightening and toning tissue, and demulcent, which is an action that is soothing and moistening. And so this combination makes it really useful for wounds and cuts and ulcers and inflamed tissue. Traditionally, fresh juice, teas, and poultices were used directly on the skin. The Anishinaabe people, a group indigenous to the northern U.S. and Canada, called self-heal something that translates to the great drawer outer, which is such a perfect description. It helps draw out infection, draw out splinters or debris, pull heat and inflammation out of tissue. So you can think of self-heal as soothing, tightening, gently pulling things out that don't belong wherever it's applied to tissue. So that's self-heal for first aid. Let's talk about its uses for the mouth and throat. If you find Prunella, if you find self-heal, look closely at the flower spikes. It has a green center that looks kind of like a miniature corn on the cob, and then it has these little purple bits opening out of that. So like zoom in on the purple pieces and use your imagination, and they're shaped like an open mouth and throat. Some herbalists connect that to the doctrine of signatures, the idea that a plant's shape or features resembles the person or the ailment it can be used for. I think it's like God gave us a visual indicator, and whether you believe that or not, self-heal's clinical use lines up beautifully because it's astringent, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory. It's been used for sore throats, canker sores, bleeding gums, gingivitis. So how do you use it for these things? You can use it as a strong tea gargle. You just make a tea and gargle it. A mouth rinse, same thing. Make a tea, only you're swishing instead of gargling. You can apply it directly to sores, like hold it in your mouth when there's irritation, and that's where its mild flavor is a positive. It's not going to sting. It's not something that you're not going to like the taste of. So mouth and throat. Now let's get past acute issues like wounds and sore throats. Self-heal also has value for immune and antiviral support. Self-heal has a really strong reputation as an immune supportive herb, and modern research backs that up. It shows antiviral activity, including with herpes and influenza. And as far as herpes virus goes, if you're talking like shingles or cold sores, I like to throw a little lemon balm in there. Self-heal has antibacterial effects. It's also used for immune modulation. So this is a great herb for colds, infections, swollen lymph nodes, cold sores. And what I love here is that it's not just stimulating the immune system. It's not making it work harder. It's not amping it up. It's modulating it. It's helping the body to respond appropriately and not overreact. Lately, I've found myself bringing in self-heal when the body isn't settling back down after an infection or where the symptoms hint at an autoimmune situation. In those cases, an immune stimulant like echinacea could get things wound up again, right? So if your immune system is running amok, the last thing you want to do is stimulate it or get it wound up more. What's needed is to help the immune system to understand so that it attacks what's from outside the body, what's harmful, and then leave everything else, your body's healthy tissue, alone to have a more appropriate response. That's immune modulation. Another related use for self-heal that's kind of related to that is cooling inflammation or hot conditions. Energetically, most herbalists consider self-heal to be cooling. Cooling herbs pump the brakes on what's too fast, what's overactive, what's too intense or too forceful, just too much of a thing, whether it's too much blood sugar, too high blood sugar, or too much of the blood pressure, or too much anger, or too much irritability. That's when you're thinking cooling herbs. So self-heal shows up in what we would call hot, inflamed conditions. Things like fevers or red swollen eyes or inflamed skin. Again, that sore throat with heat and inflammation. Also shows up when there's mastitis or breast inflammation. In traditional Chinese medicine, it's associated with the liver and gallbladder meridians, and it's used to clear what's referred to in TCM as liver heat. So when you see redness, swelling, heat, irritation, or anything that ends in itis, self-heal is often an appropriate choice. One of my clients has become a dear friend, and she's working through this cluster of symptoms, and I think has had every test known to man and still no diagnosis. And she said she felt like that woman in the Bible who spent all her money on doctors and still wasn't any better. And her symptoms included burning in her fingers and toes, elevated liver enzymes, and a lot of things that end in itis. She said she's seen more improvement in the last year using herbs than in the last 5 years trying all the conventional things. And I firmly believe that unassuming self-heal's immune modulating and inflammation cooling actions have contributed. Now let's put those two things together. The immune overactivity and inflammation. Those are two factors that are so important for those with autoimmune conditions. And I've recently been diving into some studies around self-heal for thyroid and autoimmune support. This is one of the more modern areas of focus. Self-heal traditionally throughout time has been used for goiter, for thyroid swelling, and for nodules in the throat. And modern research suggests that it may reduce thyroid antibodies. That's when it's a symbol that the thyroid is under attack. There is research that suggests that self-heal might modulate immune activity, might calm inflammation in autoimmune thyroid conditions, and that all brings it to mind in conversations about especially Hashimoto's, an immune condition where the body attacks thyroid tissue. Self-heal is sometimes used alongside conventional treatment, supporting outcomes and reducing side effects. And this is definitely a place where you want to be thoughtful and collaborative with care, but it's a really promising area, it just fascinates me. Moving on to self-heal for lymph, also for breasts and stuckness. Another big theme with self-heal is lymphatic movement. It's often used for swollen glands, for fibrocystic breast tissue, mastitis. And again, notice the pattern. In things that are swollen, stuck, or inflamed, self-heal helps the body to move fluid, reduce congestion, and resolve buildup. So for lymphatic congestion and for breast issues and for stuckness, it's often combined with herbs like violet and calendula and red clover. And all of those can be used both internally and externally. Another area where we see self-heal's actions stand out relates to the gut, to internal tissue repair. This kind of relates to what we said earlier about first aid. So if you have an abrasion on your skin outside, self-heal is good for it. But what if you have an abrasion inside on your digestive tract? Because of its soothing, astringent nature, self-heal is also really helpful for that digestive tract. So think IBS, colitis, diarrhea, ulcers, where it can help calm inflammation, protect the mucosal lining, and that astringency to gently tone tissue. So again, it's that same pattern, it's the same use that we saw outside the body, it's just being applied internally. Another use, the heart, blood sugar, and deeper systems. This is where things get really interesting because traditional uses are now being explored in modern research, and there's data that supports it. Self-heal has been used for cardiovascular inflammation, high blood sugar, metabolic balance, and research suggests it might reduce inflammatory signaling, protect blood vessels, influence glucose metabolism. So while it's gentle, it's not lightweight. It's working deeper than you might expect. I saw this personally with someone who deals with metabolic syndrome, a cluster of insulin resistance, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and abdominal weight. We worked through all the herbs traditionally used for blood pressure and blood sugar and weren't seeing a whole lot of progress until he added self-heal, and now he grows it. I think in that case, it wasn't that the traditionally used herbs were wrong. It was just that they needed that extra missing piece, and self-heal supplied it. Lastly, the emotional and energetic layer. I don't like to leave this herb without talking about the emotional side. Some herbalists describe self-heal as supporting grief, anger, sadness, and emotional wounds, and that lines up so beautifully with its physical actions, which is something I'm always delighted to discover. Sometimes I run across people whose physical symptoms mirror emotional or psychological ones. For example, someone with stiff, hardening arteries who could also be described as a person who's hard-hearted, or someone who takes on too many burdens and has back and shoulder pain. I'm not saying one thing causes the other or that it's their fault that they don't feel well, just that it's interesting when things run together, and it's also probably a good idea to work on both. Like if one thing can address hard-heartedness along with hardening of the arteries, that's good for that person. Or if the person who takes on too many burdens can learn to do less of that and at the same time reduce their back and shoulder pain, that's like a double win. And I guess I love it so because plants often do the same thing to the emotional self as they do to the physical self. Rose, for example, is used for physical heart issues, but often frequently brought in when grief breaks the emotional heart. And we see something similar with Prunella, with self-heal. So in the body, it helps the body close wounds, restore integrity, and come back into balance, not by forcing, but by supporting the process. And some report that it does the same in the mind and spirit as well. It's also food as medicine, and I love that this plant isn't just used medicinally, it can also be used as food. So traditionally, it's been eaten as greens, added to soups, made into teas, even pickled. You can toss the leaves and flowers into salads, cook the flowering tops, or infuse it into vinegar. So it's one of those herbs that gently becomes part of daily life, not just something you reach for when something's wrong. So to wrap it all up, when you think about self-heal, think about a plant that helps the body to heal itself. And instead of trying to remember a long list of uses, think in patterns: wounds, internal and external, heat and inflammation, stuckness and swelling, and restoration and repair. It's the herb that helps the body come back to itself. Maybe I said something today that made you think, I deal with that. I wonder what herbs would work for me. A clinical herbalist is a trained health professional who uses plant-based remedies to support holistic wellness, addressing the root causes of imbalances rather than just symptoms. If that's what you're looking for, I provide personalized consultations recommending specific, customized herbal formulas, nutrition, and lifestyle adjustments, and I'm happy to work alongside you and your medical provider in ways that won't interfere with anything that you're currently taking. You can find out more by visiting my website at gracerootedherbalist.com. I hope you find some self-heal when you're out and about. See you next time. Bye.